Welcome, everyone. I'm happy you're all here today, and we're going to quickly learn about your tenant portals and how easy it is to share them with your tenants. So thanks for being here today. So my name is Janelle, and I've got Catherine from your client success team with us today, and she's going to assist us with any questions you might have. So thanks a lot, Catherine, for being here.
Thanks, Janelle. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, awesome. And, Catherine and your success team here at Rentec Direct are here for you should you need any assistance. So just always remember that. You're going to notice in the upper right corner of your screen, there are two buttons. One is for your questions, and then there is one for polls that we're going to send your way. So if you could just take a quick moment to answer that short poll I've sent your way, I just really appreciate your feedback. It helps us out a lot. And if you have questions about what's being covered today live, just shoot a question over to Catherine, and that's what she's here for, and she's going to get you squared away. Otherwise, you can email or call your support team Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 5 p.m., and that's Pacific time. So let's just review quickly all the features you can offer your tenants through their tenant portal, just to make sure you're in the know. Beyond helping your tenants, this feature is just going to be a real big time saver for you. No longer are you going to have to babysit questions about, how much do I owe, or how much security deposit did I pay? Tenants are going to be able to review their tenant statement 24/7 right through their portal. And likewise, you're no longer going to need to manually log tenant maintenance requests. Tenants can even submit up to 3 pictures to you with each maintenance request. So they're going to be able to provide you permission to enter their rental when they're submitting that maintenance request. And, right from their portal, they're going to be able to see those open and closed maintenance requests, including any additional maintenance requests maybe you or your team members want to share with them from your end. So if you've activated Easy Pay in your account to collect rent electronically, you can provide the option for your tenants to schedule their own rent payments to you right through their portal. And your payment policy is controlled by you, so no worries there. And it can be changed at any time by you as well. And another feature of the tenant portal is seamless file sharing. It is easy to share copies of documents and pictures with your tenants. And this tool is just really great for, sharing pictures of their rental, what it looked like at move-in, or if there are ever any damages you need to document, you can just share a picture with the tenant for transparency. And right from your file library, you can quickly send your tenant a copy of their rental agreement or any other important document. So it's going to help you cut down on all those paper files. And we've partnered with a national company that's going to offer you the chance to provide affordable renter's insurance for your tenants. And you can offer or even require, this great option to your tenants. It's no cost to you. And if your tenants already have their own policy through their own carrier, they can submit these documents right to you through their portal, and you're going to receive notifications of that. So that's just a real, overview of what can be offered through the tenant portal tool in case you weren't clear on that. And I'm going to log you into an account. This is my account, just so I can show you how to get into the tenant portal. And so you go over to the tenant tab, and you're just going to click on a tenant's name that you want to have access to. And you're going to see down about midway through the tenant section where it says tenant portal. And this is, I'll explain later, how to do it. But basically, here's the enable button. Here's where you get the password generated. And then if you want to log into your tenant's portal, I right click so that I can open it in an incognito window and be logged in. And here's what the tenant portal looks like, what we were just reviewing. So basically, here's the summary page where you see the renter's insurance options, or excuse me, they do. And they can see a statement balance. When they click on the statement, they're going to see, based on the time period they select, all of their charges and payments. They see their security deposit in the upper right corner. And the repair tab is where they're going to see those maintenance requests and even those historical ones. Reporting an issue, super simple. Just click the button, put in the details. They can even, again, remember, upload up to 3 pictures. And the payment tab, this is where they schedule those electronic payments. So you can see it's very user-friendly. All your tenants are going to be able to navigate this with no trouble. And then that file tab, there's where you share those pictures or copies of a rental agreement. So that's the summary of what the tenant portal looks like, how to get into it. And then I'm going to get back into the actual details of it. So as we saw in that live account, it's just really easy to activate the tenant portal. So wanted to take the mystery out of it. And I want to give you the steps that you're going to want to follow. So when you're back in your account, it's very easy. First, make sure to review all of your default settings to be sure your tenants are going to be able to see those options you desire in the portal. And next, you're going to want to introduce the tenant portal to your tenants so they know about it. And we recommend you take this opportunity with your tenants to verify that you have their up-to-date contact information. And if you plan to require written authorization for electronic payments versus the electronic authorization that's already built in, it's a good time to provide your tenants access to this form. And we have samples of welcome letters and authorization forms for you to use, and I'll make sure you have those. And before you activate your tenant portals, just make sure you have all individual tenant settings the way you desire. And lastly, once you've completed these 4 steps, you're ready to activate the tenant portal like I showed you in that screen. And by doing so, it's going to automatically send a username and password to your tenants. And once they have it, they are able to log in immediately. So very easy. And let's look at how each of the steps that I mentioned in that flow looks. So step number 1, I mentioned, the renter's insurance and your settings. So if you're going to offer this option to your tenants, you're going to want to toggle your property page, the property setup page. And the first screenshot you see right here is found by editing a property. And you're going to notice in the property's financial section, a field to indicate how much renter's insurance you require. And there's more details on all the ins and outs of renter's insurance. I just want to mention for tenant portals, this is what you need to indicate. And then step number 2, just make sure you review your program defaults. That's underneath your settings tab for settings that affect the tenant portal, such as the setting that I've highlighted here that allows tenants to submit maintenance requests electronically. So for those of you who do not want that option, you can see that it can be restricted. And if you are going to have that option and you want to be notified of this activity, you'll see another option there. And then the last setting down there towards the bottom is for triggering renter's insurance options for your tenants. And then lastly, if you're collecting rent electronically, just be sure to review your Easy Pay settings to be sure you've indicated your payment options, the policies and how you plan to collect that tenant authorization that I mentioned. And keep in mind that these settings for Easy Pay under your settings tab are universal settings for all new tenants that you add in. And if you have any individual tenants that you need to adjust their personal settings, you just do that through the tenant tab. When it's time to introduce portals to your tenants, I mentioned that we have a tenant portal welcome letters, and that's what I have pulled up here. It comes in a PDF or in an editable format, so we'll make sure you have those templates. And this letter is just an easy way to share information about portal access and functionality with your new or maybe your existing tenants. And again, we'll send this over to you so you'll have it in your inbox by the end of the day. And in the template, you're going to notice that we provide you the login web address that your tenants can use to access their portal. And that's what I have displayed here in the upper right. If you have a private website, this web address can be linked into your private website for tenant login. And as a reminder, for all of our Pro and PM clients, you do have a free website. If you're not using it already, make sure you look into that. But if you do have it, you'll notice in the upper right corner of your website, there's a login button, and that's also where your tenants can log into their portal. And then lastly, the other tenant portal access option is through what we call Resident Connect, which is a mobile app Rentec Direct has for your tenants, and they can download that from the App Store for free. So Once you've introduced your portals to your tenants, you're going to want to make sure their personal tenant settings reflect your intention. So we talked about universal settings, but you may want to have those individual tenant settings. Just be sure to adjust them either at the Easy Pay settings, if those are important to be individually customized. Make sure you have their current email address in there. And the tenant detail page, you're going to see the tenant portal section where we turn that on. Again, it's on the bottom here of the right screenshot. And just as a side note, if you're going to be collecting rent electronically, got to have a tenant phone number on file for your tenant, and you also have to have a property address on the property page. So individual tenant settings, just remember they're toggled through the tenant tab, and you're going to click on the tenant menu, and property settings are done through the property tab just by clicking on the property menu. So I want to emphasize just a few more points related to tenant portals. All portals are accessed and handled per tenant. So just keep that in mind. And you toggle them individually when you're turning them on, and individual tenants have their own username and password. And electronic payment options for your tenants that can be accessed through their tenant portal, they're set up as a default underneath your settings tab, or again, underneath individual tenants in the tenant tab. And remember, for successful tenant payments, you must have a tenant linked to an active property, either scheduled for a move-in or actively living there. So in the tenant tab, if they say that they are inactive, they're not going to have a successful payment get processed, even if they try to schedule that. So remember tenant phone numbers and property addresses. That comes up a lot. You'll hear the success team will say if something isn't working properly, they always ask about that. So I just want to give you that tip ahead of time. And there are program default settings underneath the settings tab for all tenants when it comes time to, allowing those maintenance requests and renter's insurance. And the only caveat to this is if you have co-tenants. So primary tenants and tenants that you're tracking separately, like roommates that are totally separate, they're able to purchase renter's insurance, but co-renters are not. So keep that in mind. And if you do have co-renters on a property, just remember, if you're going to be sharing files, you need to share them specifically with that co-renter, meaning any files that you've shared with the primary tenant are not going to appear on that co-renter's portal. So they each have their own private files there, as you would probably want them to. And just a last note for our PM clients, if a tenant submits a maintenance request through their portal, it's not automatically shared with the owner of that property. If you want to share their maintenance request, just be sure to open up that tenant maintenance request and check the box that says share with owner. This just allows you to decide when it's appropriate to share maintenance requests with property owners. So we got through that pretty quick, and I'm glad we didn't take up too much of your time. I wanted to, though, ask Catherine if any good questions have come through by our team members that are here today, and just ask Catherine if she has anything she'd like to add to this.
Yeah, it doesn't look like anybody asked any questions, so I think they grasped the main concept of the tenant portal. What I wanted to mention, the kind of just to reiterate, is that co-renters can have their own login as well. So, and that's something that we've recently rolled out, that co-renters now can have a login. They also have the option to make payments and so forth. So.
Oh, yeah, great point there. Let me show that to you guys. So I open my account again, and going back to my tenant page where I have a co-renter. Here's my co-renter with the main tenant, basically just editing that tenant, and you'll see that same option there. So thanks for bringing that up, Catherine. I appreciate that. So thank you so much, everyone. I just want to mention, if you need to reach out to your client success team with any additional account questions, you've got your contact information for them right here. And if you have any webinar questions or suggestions, just be sure to send them my way. We all want you to be successful. And thank you again for joining us today to learn all about your tenant portals. We have some more webinars you can sign up for, either for live presentation like we're doing today, or afterwards just as on demand. And that's really good if you have team members that want to catch this after it's already aired.